Hello, hello, everyone. I am so excited. First of all, I'm not the tallest girl in the room. Can we get a shout out for that? These beautiful queens, I'm just like, yes, it feels so good to look up. So we're just gonna start off with just really asking each other some questions about our careers as athletes and also, going further beyond athletics. But we're gonna start at, what age, Nneka, we'll start with you. What age did you start to take athletics seriously?
First of all, I want to say thank you for having me today, especially me and my sister. It's actually kind of rare that we have appearances together.
Very strange.
So I'm really
know.
happy, and I'm happy to be sharing the stage with you, Koya. So I guess for me, growing up in our household, sports wasn't necessarily something that we saw as like a trajectory in our lives. But I'd say that I started taking it seriously maybe like my junior year in high school, because at that point, being Nigerian, once the scholarship letters start coming in, it's like, okay, now let's take this sport seriously. But it was such a journey because we were raised to be well-rounded women, and that included, obviously, first of all, doing well in school, and then, of course, being involved in your church and your community, and that leading to, of course, like extracurricular activities and also being healthy. And so we were all in gymnastics, and everyone but me played soccer. And then we ended up kind of falling into basketball, and we found a lot of character building and a lot of community in basketball, but we didn't really know where it was going to take us aside from just like being athletic and being healthy. But then, once we started getting better and practicing at it, then in high school, scholarship letters started coming through, especially when that Stanford one came in. Then it was like,
Hey.
it was almost no longer my decision.
And it's really funny because when I took it seriously, basketball is something we always say we did together. It was always about sisterhood. Everyone asked us, like, oh, you guys must have had these amazing backyard battles. No. Like, I will never forget when we were in Hamilton Middle School, we were playing and we were just learning the game. It was Nneka versus the three of us. We have two younger sisters. They were like itty-bitty munchkins. I was a little bit bigger, and Nneka was still schooling us. But it was done with a really joyful purpose, and I think one thing that we've always said as sisters who fell in love with the game, we say we fell into it and then we fell in love with it. Everything has been about, sisterhood and collaboration instead of being competitive. So to us, and it's also interesting because I took it seriously when Nneka left me for the first time, which was when she went to Stanford, because it's been amazing, and I know Talia's here, Cal rival in the building.
Don't cheer for her.
We never lost to you. We never lost to you, but it's all right. But y'all got the last laugh multiple times. Y'all pushed it. But when Nneka left, she went to Stanford. I was a junior in high school. It was really difficult for me because that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I'm standing on my own. I don't have my sister there, and I could ride her coattails. And that, to me, ever since then, I followed her to Stanford, and now I followed her to the WNBA, to the LA Sparks.
But we each had our own individual decisions, even though we ended up in the same place.
Correct.
Which I think is really special.
Correct. Mm-hmm. So it's just been a journey, and it's been all about sisterhood, and that's how we fell into sports and fell in love with it.
And I would love to know more about what got you into athletics. I read about you, and I know about you. And I was just talking to you backstage about, what your foundation is. So when did you start taking it seriously, Koya?
For me, it was a way out of my house, because I grew up in a really toxic home environment, like I know most of you have experienced. And for me, I just wanted to get away. I wanted to experience something new, and athletics was it. So it didn't matter if I was playing basketball or running track. I actually did both. And I just wanted to get out of the house. I just wanted to experience freedom, and that's really when I started to play. When I started to take it seriously, honestly, no one ever, in my family, everything was very light, so no one ever pushed me to do sports or to excel at anything. It was all about just be a good person, treat each other right, treat people right, and you're good. And so I really had to dig within myself to really take things seriously. And I think it started when I realized I could go to college on a full scholarship. And I was like, oh, y'all paying for school? Okay, let's just take this seriously. And so when I found out I could go to college on a scholarship, I was like, okay, I'm taking this seriously. And I really started to focus on basketball and track and field. And I ended up taking a track scholarship to Wichita State because I had the most offers, and I had started basketball a little bit later. But when I was in high school, I started off riding the bench, and then the second year, I got most improved, and by my senior year, I had gotten MVP. And so that's how hard I was just focused on training. And that consistency let me know anything I'm willing to work hard at, I can do. And so when it came to my career, I was like, if I'm willing to work hard at this, like I worked hard at athletics, then I can do it. And that's really what, propelled me into athletics and made me start taking it seriously. And that determination and consistency and discipline, really, that's what helped me out with my career as well.
I love that.
Yep.
I love that.
So there is a rep that, immigrant families, they're all interested in academic and financial success. So creative skills and sports are not really taken seriously. So did you get any pushback from your parents or, when you decided to take basketball seriously?
There's a rep and there's a lot of validity to that rep. But I would have to say that Chiney and I were raised in a very unique family. Both of my parents were the ones who got us into sports. And I would say that the pushback was more aimed towards them than it was to us. So a lot of their peers were like, what are your daughters doing playing in sport? What is this going to do for them? And then the second we're both playing at Stanford, they're like, how can we get our daughter in this?
Right.
Help our
Let
son.
us do that.
What can we do to get them in this,
It's like we remember.
Yeah, and yeah, we still help them.
We want what y'all got.
We still help them. But you clearly see we're different. But, I think, kind of finding out how we could still maintain our, the identity of our heritage while playing sports was a very unique journey. It still really is. And I'd have to say that a lot of what makes us who we are, more specifically being Nigerian American women, even from, Houston, Texas, is a lot that we continue to navigate. And I think right now we're in the process of almost unearthing it because for a long time it was safer to suppress it, to assimilate. And that came along with, pushback that my parents got from their peers. It came along with us missing a lot of events, things that people normally go to that we could no longer go to. And it's followed us into my career. I played 7 years overseas, and I've missed a lot of weddings. I've missed a lot of births. And so there's a lot of pushback that kind of turns into, my biggest fear was like apathy from my community because they just assumed, oh, Nneka's not available, Nneka's not available. But those were sacrifices that we made, not really knowingly so at the time, that turned into us really valuing our parents' decision to like make us well-rounded women, putting us in sport, getting the character building aspects of being in sport, and of course the opportunity, the windows and the doors of opportunity that opened from that most certainly well outweighed the pushback that we had. And I really don't regret any moment of it, to be very honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think our parents, they're very progressive. Like, as she said, a lot of their peers were the one pushing back, but now the tables have reversed. But I do think, being born first-generation Americans, but in a Nigerian household, but born and raised, as Nneka said, in Houston, Texas, where a lot of times I feel like, particularly being Black, you feel like you're the only in a room, that it's like a local idea. I think sport really allowed us to experience so many different cultures, different pathways. That's what my parents saw, that immersion. It doesn't matter who your teammate is, you guys have the same goal. And I think that taught us to have a bigger lens, including our culture, that being Black is powerful, being Black is global, you're connected to a huge community, and sport is a great way to transfer that. Because that is something, let's be real, we own. We own. At least our bodies, and now we're building pathways toward ownership of the business itself, which is super special. But my parents didn't know that when they put us in there. They just saw those innate qualities of hard work ethic, camaraderie, and then just being in a room where, hey, you're taught to care about the last player on the bench as much as you care about yourself. It's not about just winning and holding the trophy, even though she's done that as MVP, but it's that she's... You know I like to put big fists on the spot.
Why?
She lets me hold it too. I actually, when she won the championship, that's my point. When you win a championship, it's not about just you being there. It's about sharing that journey with others, that mutual feeling of winning. And I'll never forget when she won, I was actually playing in China. And she FaceTimed me into her celebration. So I was like, she had her trophy, Candace Parker was there, and it was me on FaceTime, like, hey, I'm here too. Maybe that's when I knew I was gonna be your teammate with the Sparks. But I think it's just those ideas that we are part of a global community, and that's something that sport has really brought to our family. And we've educated ourselves to many different pathways and different people, and she's the president of the Players Association. She's been killing it for years in that position. And I think it starts with that, I know, right? She blushing. But I think it starts with that idea that, I mean, whatever, man, whatever. Hey, these are facts.
I can't.
These are facts.
Thank you.
Yep.
I will receive the flowers.
There you go.
But no, like to Chiney's point, you know, just representing ourselves locally in on a community-based level and globally, it's really been a part of our blood. And you know, even speaking to your journey, Koya, I know that you know we've gone through, and we continue to, as every day I feel like you go through adversity, whether it's trivial, whether it's gaslighting, like there's all types of things and things that are out of our control. And I would like to know a little bit more about in your journey, like you were training for the Olympics and you ended up getting injured, and understanding like what that pivot looked like. I was talking to you a little bit about it before. How did that affect you, not just physically? Because I think that there's something that's important about sports is that, you know, people come out here and they watch us compete. They watch us do things at the highest level, and they think it's just, oh, she's just got to move her body. Mm-hmm. But what she has to do to get her body to do what it does, to get her body out of a funk, to get her body to accept an injury, that's a lot. That's a lot that people don't see. So how did you deal with that when you were training?
Depression. That's how it started. You know, because once you know, we all felt it during the pandemic. It's like you have your trajectory, you have your goals, you're clear what you're doing, and then all of a sudden, nah, it's gone. It's stripped away from you, and you're thinking like, what happened? What did I do? Like, why me? And so I was asking all of those questions. I worked so hard. I'm team captain. Like, what am I gonna do now? You know, and at first when I felt that, you know, pain in my back, I thought I got shot. I was like, what happened? And it ended up being a stress fracture. And when they told me I was out for the season, it was like, huh? Me? Because it just wasn't in the cards. I hadn't planned for it. And so I was going to classes and I found myself, everything zoned out. It's like the teacher was like, wah, 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 and I was just like, I was in a daze. And I didn't know I needed help until I started crying. I would cry uncontrollably. Like, I would just be sitting there, and then I would be in tears. And the teacher was like, Koya, you need to go to the counselor because you can't just burst out crying in class for no reason. So I was like, okay. And the counselor said, you should try yoga. And I was like, you know, being raised Southern Baptist Christian, I was like, I don't know if I could do yoga. You know, I can't worship no idol gods. And they were like, no. It's not that. You're just going to be breathing and stretching. Wasn't any things on the walls or anything like that.
We're from Texas, and I thought the same thing.
Right? What about when I told my parents, and they were like, you doing who? Who you worshiping now? I was like, I'm not worshiping anything. You worship people in underwear? You know, no, that's not it. So it's so important to talk about because yoga has changed my life and it's strengthened my relationship with God. And a lot of times we look at things that are different than what we're used to, and we're quick to say, nah, that's not me. But really, it is in our culture. When I went to Africa, I would look at the hieroglyphics on the wall and see the poses that I now do. I didn't know about comedic yoga then, but when I decided to become a yoga teacher and start my own yoga school, I learned we are the originators of everything that you see here. So whenever you think, that's not me, that's not my culture, wait a minute, trace it all the way back to the beginning. You know, in the beginning, everything that was set was with our ancestors, and that started in Africa. So there's nothing that you see that is not you. And I think we have to remember that. And we have to hold on to the things that resonate with us, of all the things, and let go of the things that don't. And so I had to get past that block first. And so once I went past that block, I was like, okay, let me try to do these poses. I was a tight athlete, y'all. I was a tight athlete. I could not touch my toes. I could do a back bend because I high jump, but I could not touch my toes. I was so tight. I was like, I do not belong here. This is not me. No one looked like me. For a long time, I was the only black, brown girl in the room, and I felt uncomfortable. I felt out of place. But the teacher saw me just uncomfortable, and she said, just breathe. And I took a deep inhale and exhale. And I felt these chills in my body. And I remember the first time I got baptized. And I was asking my parents, when am I going to get baptized? When will I know? Like, what's the Holy Spirit? What does that mean? They were like, you'll feel it. And so I remember the first time I felt what I identify as the Holy Spirit, it was chills from head to toe in my body. And so when I took that deep breath, I felt those chills, and I was like, oh, my goodness, this is the Holy Spirit. So I'm going to stay here. So I just trusted that feeling for me, and I said, all right, let's go. And I just kept breathing. I kept breathing. I didn't worry about the pose. The teacher said, don't worry about the pose, just keep breathing. And I kept breathing, and I did the best that I could. I remember trying to get in lotus. Now I can get in lotus right now with heels on. But I remember when I tried, I was like, this is so painful. Well, how am I going to find bliss and peace? And I don't get it. Y'all lying to me. I remember trying to do a headstand for the first time. I was like, I'm tender-headed. My head is not made for this. And I had all the resistance, but I kept trying. And I think as an athlete, especially, I learned you have to have discipline. You have to keep trying. Sometimes it will be uncomfortable, and noticing the difference between discomfort and pain, right? Because a lot of things we try to do are going to be uncomfortable. But is it painful, right? So if it's uncomfortable, that could be a sign, okay, stick with it. Try a little bit more. Breathe into it. Not push yourself further, but breathe into it. If it's painful, you stop, you pause. And so yoga really taught me the difference between pain and discomfort. It taught me how to ride the edge. And so when I started to get better and better and learn to breathe, as you said, it helped my mental wellness, because I wasn't thinking I want to check out of this experience, because I checked in. I chose to be here. We all chose to be here at this time, but I had suicidal ideation. I was like, you know what? I worked so hard for this, and now it's gone. What am I going to do with my life? I don't want to go back home. They're going to ship me back home. I'm not useful anymore. I can't run on the track, so here I go. I'm done. But when I started to breathe, I was like, you know what? No matter what, I have my breath. I have my smarts. I mean, I graduated with a 3.8, so I also had the education, but at that time, I just wanted to run. I just wanted to be on the track and field. So I really had to tap in to my spiritual connection with God, and from there, it has never left me. No matter what I do, no matter what country I travel to, I check in with my breath, and to me, the breath is the Holy Spirit, and that's what I take with me throughout my life, throughout my world, and that's helped guide my path.
Yeah, I love that. That's
Whoa.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. And you are like preaching to the choir, because this off season, I'm someone who has dealt with multiple injuries. I had like right knee microfracture, left Achilles, and I started yoga, Bikram yoga, hot yoga this off season. I could do it in heels too, girl. You know, I did a whole.
Hey, come on now.
You know what I'm saying? Still need work on my dancer's pose. Tree is still giving me fits, but it has really helped me. And I know that we finally destigmatized therapy in our communities. I think the work still needs to continue, but finding these outlets where you can feel like you can breathe is everything. That was yoga for me. And so I'm grateful for that. And I love that you also said, things that reminded me, you cannot be what you cannot see. I feel like in our country, they're taking away our sight, they're taking away our hearing, they're taking away books that we can read that should be, universal. And knowing that we are still connected to this greater history, and that's why I say Black is global, because to be Black is to be resilient. And that's one thing I've found innate within all of us, that we all emanate in this room. And so I guess my follow-up question to you and your experience as someone that understands that injury, adversity into opportunity and wholeness, what is the difference of physical fitness and wellness? Because both are very integral, separate, but then also together.
Absolutely. That is a good question because I know a lot of times we're like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to work out. Like, just give me that pill, that quick fix. So I got to drink the green juice, okay, right? But physical fitness is important because we have endured a lot of harm and a lot of trauma, and we daily experience microaggressions. And if you want to learn the science behind that, read a book called The Body Keeps Score.
Oh,
right?
I'm reading that right now.
The body keeps score, right? And so the physical movement, it's not about looking good or having abs or, anything like that. It's about releasing trauma from your body. That's why I work out. That's how yoga was able to heal me, is because I was releasing trauma of going too hard. Stress fracture is an overuse injury. I was going too hard. I wasn't giving myself a break. I was up all night studying. I wasn't eating properly. I was just working out and just burning the calories, right? I was doing everything backwards, right? But when I learned, okay, my body's keeping score, so if I experience all this trauma, if I want to go hard on myself, then I also need to practice self-care. I also need to journal. I also need to meditate. I also need to think about the things that I'm grateful for. I also need to take a break and create a nighttime routine, a morning routine to deal with what I'm doing during the day. And so I really had to set myself up for mental, spiritual, and physical well-being. So the physical is important because, again, you want to release trauma from your body, whether that be through yoga. If you align with yoga, yes, but it could be a walk. It could be dancing to your favorite music, but something consistent every day is important, so you're releasing that negative energy from your body. It could be just shaking and moving. It could be tapping. There's so many somatic ways that you can release negative energy and trauma from your body. So that physical is important, but mental well-being, like the things that we tell ourselves, I am beautiful, I am resilient, I am worthy. Because when we look at the signs, it's getting better, but we got a long way to go. But to see so many things outside of us that tell us your beauty is supposed to look like this, and it doesn't look anything like us, right? And so you have to deal with seeing that every day. Now that we have more examples of what beauty look like, what success look like, that's why we're thriving. Because we say, oh, if she can be successful, I can be successful. Oh, if she does yoga, I can do. If she plays ball, I can do ball. If she can be a successful entrepreneur, I can be a successful entrepreneur. So we have more examples. And when you can see yourself, it helps you realize that I can too. And so that mental well-being is important. And then the spiritual well-being. At the end of the day, I truly believe we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And in my everyday life, I put God first. And I believe if I'm doing anything out of the alignment of my true purpose, well, I'm going to get some pushback, right? I'm going to experience some lessons that really bring me back into alignment with love, bring me back into alignment with God. And that's what I've learned on my journey. It's like we can do a lot of things. We have freedom of choice in the world. But the sign that we're getting off track is we start experiencing disappointment. We started experiencing different types of trauma. And to me, that is our sign, like, okay, you might be off course. What can you do to get back on course? And that sign for me is breath work, because that's tapping into spirit. Holy Spirit is a guide. So when I tap into breath work every day, that's starting every day with divine guidance. And then when I get into that mental, spiritual, physical, we talk about emotional, which we just started talking about. Emotions are energy in motion. It's letting us know where we're hurt, where we're not okay. So it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be sad. But can we take those emotions and let them guide us to what's wrong? What happened? What was said? What was done that makes you feel this way? And then track it back to your healing. And so now that I've learned how to heal and how to self-heal, my goal is to teach as many people as possible. So that's why wellness, mentally, spiritually, and physically, is just important as physical fitness. Okay. So as sisters, kind of you two as well, like how does that play into wellness for you? Like how do you really bring well-being into your everyday life?
I was just talking to you about this, and I was asking her, like when you had to pivot, what exactly did you do to not make it feel so? I feel like there's this pressure to be very performative when people talk about like self-care and wellness, and it's like you gotta look zen. And you gotta, if I want to read a book, I gotta, where's my reading chair? And it's like, dang, like, it's too much. But I was asking her, like, what did you incorporate? Which is what I really love about you, is that you incorporate things that you already do. You said something that I have never said out loud, that the Holy Spirit is breath, because that is something that is with you every single day. Every single day. And how you're breathing also helps you understand what's going on. Is it shallow? Is it deep? Is it fast? Are you gasping for air? Are you calm? And so I'm still trying to learn how to do that. And these are different things that I've learned because I reached a point of, I guess you could say, trauma. I like kind of working my way back with this question that you asked. When you reach a point where you feel like you've lost control, you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do. I'm the strong friend, which I'm almost, if I had to guess, everybody in here is, but but I'm like the strong friend. I'm the oldest daughter. I'm the captain, the president. I'm always the person that has everything, like, oh, if Nneka's cool, we cool. Yeah. But it's like when I'm melting down, that's when everyone's like, oh, what's going on?
Hold up.
So, and you can ask Chiney. My nickname in the family is Hurricane Nneka. And so, you guys.
Good weather.
Yeah, you guys won't see that today. But I had experienced like a very traumatic experience of getting injured and falling short of a goal. Like there was no image in my mind, because I like to believe that I'm a very strong manifester of my dreams. And so there was no image of my mind that I wouldn't be on the Olympic team. It's very similar to your experience. And I got injured. It wasn't an injury that actually would have taken me out of the games, but the timing of the injury, it cascaded into a lot of different events that kept me from doing what I wanted to do. And so I had reached a very low point when it came to like self-worth. Really looking at myself in the mirror and like knowing the answer to like, are you worthy? I had lost that answer. I didn't even want to look at myself in the mirror and ask that. And I say that this is where I discovered true sisterhood, not from Chiney. Chiney, she's always been there, but she was a perfect example. A lot of the people in my community were perfect examples of that support that I needed when you literally can't pick yourself up. And I think that one thing that we deal with as Black women is being very scared of being in that position, and even being more horrified or embarrassed to feel as though you need help because you can't even lift yourself up. Right. And so I found true sisterhood. I found true worthiness and true value in being okay when things are not okay. Right. Knowing that I have sisters that will pick me up. Right. Knowing that I'll have sisters that will let me act out. Being in that space that can get that trauma out. Because when you're isolated, it just lives, it festers, and then it creates this hardened outside that people perceive as characteristic to Black women. But it's not making an excuse, it's what we deal with all the time. And so having that community, we are the community that we crave. And so it's very important for us to realize that we are made up of that same group of people that will lift us up. And Chiney's a shining example of that when I had that experience. And it was really a turning point for me. After that year, I was like, my mantra the next year was like, I'm gonna do me. I don't care what anybody says, I'm gonna do me. Let me tell you, I'm gonna do me. And it took people showing me that that was okay for me to be able to step into that. And so that's kind of where I really truly found like my real core, my sisters, people that I meet, even being able to, because I truly feel as though if I didn't look at myself in the mirror and have that reflection of myself, I wouldn't even be here today. There's aspects to our experience that have everything to do with what we're feeling inside. And so we reflect a lot of what we're open to, what comes our way. And so being able to be here and share this space with you all and share even this story with you all in front of my sister. I mean, Chiney was there, but I've never been like, Chiney, let me tell you. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to, but like, it's nice being here to be able to share that in front of her, just how much I was just very grateful to have her in that moment, along with other people. And to be quite frank, I think also something that's very important is filtering out those people that you think are actually supporting you. So that moment also showed me like, oh, I thought you were down for me,
Right.
but you weren't.
Right.
And being okay with letting that go. It doesn't mean that you don't have to talk to that person anymore, but like you can meet people where they meet you, depending on your needs, depending on their needs. Yeah. And forming that environment around you is imperative to spiritual wellness, to mental wellness, which ultimately exudes as physical wellness. So that's kind of how I feel about like really curating my community and sisterhood.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's bars right there. I want to dive a little bit deeper though, because I know you said, I had to do me. So can you share like, what does doing you look like?
Yeah.
Really practically.
So for me, I mean, like if I was just to put it plainly and simply, like one thing about me is that everybody knows is like, if there's a night outing, Nneka is probably not gonna be there. Like, unless it has to do with music, I'm probably not gonna be there. And so I use that as an example of like, I have a cutoff time of like when I receive phone calls. I don't have children, so I also understand that like everyone has different lifestyles and everyone has different responsibilities. But like, there's a time when I don't receive certain phone calls. Like basically, I put my phone on like do not disturb, and I make sure that only family and certain people can reach me. In the morning, I do not open my phone because I heard this, it was a very simple analogy, but it's like opening your phone is similar to like letting all of those notifications into your room. So imagine if all those people who had messaged you were now in your room
Hey girl.
over your bed,
Hey
like,
girl.
hey,
What you doing? What you want to do?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. So I'm very, very reverent about my mornings and my nights. Now, I love incorporating things that are natural to what I do. Like I told you before, I think that I put a lot of pressure on myself for like self-love, self-care, because, when it first came out, it was trendy and people, make you feel like it has to look a certain way. And so incorporating like things that I already do into like my foundational self-care nature is breathing. So like even just waking up and taking 5 deep breaths before I do anything. I'm an athlete, but I'm also very reverent with how I train. So like when I'm training, it's just me. Like it's me. I thank every part of my body that is able to do the exercises that I do. I really don't do anything until after I work out. I journal every single night, and like I know that this may kind of fall into the aesthetic portion, but like for me, I'm not someone that can just like, dear diary, like that's just not me. I just write down all the things through the day that I was grateful for. That's literally all I do every night. And it gives you an opportunity to kind of like replay it in your head and kind of reinforce those positive images, especially right before you go to sleep. And then after I do that, I also write down basically things that I want to happen. I always speak in the present. I always use I am when I'm describing myself or how I'm feeling. If I feel as though like I made a mistake, I don't say I'm stupid. I just say, oh, that was a stupid mistake. I'm very careful about how I talk to myself. And I don't have it mastered at all, because sometimes I'll be fighting with her up here. But I try my best to do that, and I try my best to do that to other people, and just really being kind, being genuine, being honest with myself and with other people. It may seem a little bit plain, but it's a lot of practice, because there's so many interactions that you have throughout the day, and so it's like a lot of practice, and I really try my best to be my best and be the type of person that I would want to encounter, especially as a teammate, because that's my job. And being a teammate, I always say, is like the next closest thing to having a sister. Right. And so being able to be that teammate, and also reserving space for like, hey y'all, this is where I'm at today. Because I also think that that's a component of self-care. Everyone thinks that, oh, if you're always zen, then you shouldn't be mad. No, like if I'm mad, maybe my self-care is communicating that to you.
That part.
You know what I'm saying? And so just incorporating a lot of those interpersonal practices that don't make me feel as though like I'm adding more to my plate, but building off of it. Yeah. Like you said with your yoga, which I want to get on your level, but
let's do yoga.
Yeah, but building off of it. So anyway.
Yeah, I think, it's been fun, like, witnessing this panel, because this has been beautiful for me as younger sister. But I guess the only thing I would add to this is, like, watching her experience, and she's watched a lot of my experiences as well. Hers was a little semi-publicized with, like, what she went through. But sometimes, you know what they say, you have to go through it to get to it. And you don't realize until you're going through it who your people are, who your teammates are. And, in that moment she was going through it, I was, like, ready to kill. And I was like, dang, like, that's our sisterhood. Like, I will happily go to jail for you. Obviously we'll never do that. But my
maybe.
I mean, I don't know. we love Olivia Pope over here. But, like, it was just those moments of duress and disaster honestly reveal more about your character. And to go through that together, I think that just made us stronger. And I'm grateful that all we have to worry about now is just hooping. And to lastly say, on her experience, she should have achieved everything she wanted to, because she had more than deserved it. Man plans, God laughs. And I think those same people that Nneka talked about, if you turn on your phone and they're in your room, she's in their room, because they can't sleep knowing that they treated her wrong, And it's funny because I'm not saying we get validation, but she'll walk around and she's walking on cloud 9 because her character and her dignity is intact and other people aren't. And sometimes we think that our rewards are the money and the material things and the accolades and these titles like Olympian, MVP, and all that type of stuff. No, it's your character, it's your soul, it's that higher purpose. And I think I'm really proud that her higher purpose is unblemished from that incident. And that was cool. Yeah, but let me tell y'all, if I'm fierce about her, she's like fierce 100,000 times over about me. But I guess that leads me kind of to one thing I've seen my sister build, which I don't really, well, actually I do, I'm just not as organized about it, is boundaries. And I think in creating boundaries, a lot of times people think that that is you being difficult or hard-headed about not experiencing everyone. Like, no, that's just protecting your own space, protecting your own peace, and operating in this world in a way that makes you a better you, and we should respect that. So what are your thoughts on boundaries as you've evolved in your careers?
Oh my goodness. Boundaries has helped me evolve. I wouldn't be the woman I am today without boundaries, because I'm a lover. I love for a living. That's what I do. I help people breathe, do yoga. I started out helping people heal and then build communities, and now I'm working with entrepreneurs and helping them build, online wellness platforms. And so through it all, I always wanted to give anything I had. I mean, I grew up with my mom. Oh, I like your ring. Do you want it? Oh, I like your shirt. Do you want it? Literally, my mother taught me to give everything, because non-attachment. Yes, I learned that in yoga, but I learned it first from my mother. She wasn't attached to anything. She didn't care. She would give you the clothes off her back. She'll snatch her wig off and give it to you. I mean, she would literally make sure you were good. And so I grew up with that example. So I would give things. I mean, when I was in college, I got a scholarship. I was paying my best friend's rent, you know? I was just giving everything that I had, and the more friends I made, because, I'm in athletics, I was just giving a lot. And I didn't know about healthy boundaries. I was just like, if I got it, I'm gonna give it, And some people were deserving, and they were really my friend, but like you said, some people, you found out who your true friends are, and they're just there for the handout. But when you're down, when you're sad, when you're depressed, where are they?
Right.
Are they there for you? Are they calling you, asking you? In this one situation, I remember I was going through a season of depression, and my friend was like, oh, I saw you didn't see the check this month. I was like, yeah, I've been having a tough month. They're like, oh, can you send it next week? And I'm like, no. That was my first time. I'm in college. That was my first time telling my friend no. And it hurt me to tell her no. But it also hurt that I never hear from her anymore.
Right.
And we were best friends in high school, so I thought we'd be best friends forever because I see it all around me. So I didn't understand, but when I started doing reading, I was like, oh, we grew apart. We're no longer, you don't want to talk about the things I talk about, and I don't have a child. She had got married and had a child, and I couldn't relate because that wasn't my reality. And it's hard. And I'm not saying that everyone that lives differently grows apart, but this relationship had. There is no one relationship that looks alike. And sometimes when you try to hold on to things when they've run their course or when they've had their season, it can be painful. So I had to release and let go with love. And I still love this person to this day. But I had to release in that moment. I had to learn to say no. And me saying that no, yeah, it might have hurt for a minute, but eventually she got stronger and she figured it out. So I had to learn I was handicapping people by always doing over and beyond. I was handicapping people by not communicating my feelings if I felt like I was being, stretched beyond my limits. And so healthy boundaries really helped me ask myself, how do you feel about doing this? Are you doing this out of obligation? Are you doing this because you want this person to love you? And normally, that was it. I was doing this giving because I wanted to be loved. I wanted to feel love. And I didn't notice that until later on after doing all this inner work. It's like, oh, okay, I was raised to think when you do stuff for people, they're going to love you, But now I know just me being me is enough. I don't have to I don't have to get a certain amount of accolades. I don't have to have a certain amount of followers. I don't have to have any award to be loved. And those that love me as I am, as me, those are my people. Those are looking me to have some type of award or some type of achievement. I love you, but those are not my people. Those are people, and they could be good people. But I have to be very aware of who I'm allowing in my inner circle now. I have to make sure that they care about me, that I can call them when I'm down. And I put it to the test. I reach out to people. I no longer say, I'm okay, I'm sad this week. No, you know what? I'm angry. And I really started to share my emotions because honestly, I also wasn't good at sharing how I really felt. And I didn't know how to be vulnerable enough for people to actually be a true friend to me. Because I was the older sister. So like you, I had to keep it together. I was the strong one. Everyone came to me. But who do I go to when I need to break down, when I need to cry, when I'm going through it? I was like, okay. I'm praying, and I always go to the divine. And honestly, that's the best place to go. But as a human being, it's good to have physical people there, someone you can talk to and relate to. And it's taken me a long time to cultivate that friendship and that sisterhood around me. But first, I had to realize what it was not. And then I realized what it was. And then I started to share my sad moments, my hurt moments. And those girls were like, okay, call me at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., girl, whenever you need me, call me, I'm there. Those ones are like, hey, how you doing this week? Let's have dinner. Let's work out. Let's do it. And then I started to cultivate sisterhood. And the healthy boundaries look like saying no when I want to say no. And if me saying no jeopardizes our friendship, well, I guess we're not friends. Right? And so you should be able to tell friends no, and they still calling you the next day. Okay, girl, well, you want to do something else? And so I really learned those that were just there for me for a season or to, they say ride in a bus, but when you're in a broken down, on the side of the street, where are they at? And so me learning that really helped me continue to grow. And now I'm around a lot of strong women who I know have my back, like a real blood sister.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ladies.
Is it okay? I know that we're pressed for time.
I would love to get in 2 questions.
Okay. Is it possible to ask the last question? Because I do think that last question we have on the card is okay. Is it okay if I steal it from you?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we were just talking about boundaries. And I think that boundaries breeds balance. And one thing I know you're supposed to ask my sister this question, but I wanted to ask. Because geez, you make it look easy. And I know it is not. You got injured and created a whole nother career. I just want you to express in your own words, not like you just talking to me, but like, honestly, like even as you talk to yourself, like how do you balance it all? How do you give yourself that mental, spiritual, and physical balance to really do what you do? Because people see Chiney on TV, and it's imperative for people to know that she is an analyst, but she's also a full-time basketball player. Like, a lot of people do not know that she still plays, and she does. And she goes on TV every day. They ask me if I want to do it, and I say absolutely not. And I just don't know how you do it. And, like, how does sisterhood help you through that? How do you find balance? How do you draw boundaries to be able to do what you do?
I think the strength comes from like that corny, it's not corny, but we see it on t-shirts now and it's mainstream, but it's so true. You know, being your ancestors' wildest dreams. Knowing that you have opportunities that other people would have literally died for. You know, like people have gone through generational traumas just so that we can live a carefree life. And I think I'm fortunate to live what is deemed as a quote-unquote carefree life, doing what I love by choice and getting paid well to do so. So like that I don't miss that idea any day that I wake up. I think that's what motivates me. That's what makes it hard for me to say no, even when I need to. I was on the phone with my boss 2 days ago, and Nneka was on like in the background, because you know how we roll. I'll be like, just be quiet for a second.
They were playing her. Playing her.
And like, so I work with fabulous guys in the industry, like bros, Hall of Famers, amazing. And it just is interesting that no matter how hard I work, meaning filling in for a lot of the guys when they need breaks, when I tell them, hey, I'm literally doing 2 things at once, they don't understand that. And it's like, all right, do you fight that battle loud and hard, or do you play the long game and win? And I've been playing the long game in my careers because my mom has always said, ever since I was injured, when I was at home, and I built this career with the support. I mean, one thing I'll say about Nneka, I have an idea a week or a day, something crazy. She's never once told me I'm crazy for thinking what I think. And I think that has really propelled this idea that I can do anything. I'll never forget after I tore when I hurt my right knee, had microfracture surgery in 2014. I was at home, my parents, like my little sister was actually a senior in high school, and I was immobilized, you know, needed help to take showers. My parents were home, so they were doing that, but they had to go to work. I'll be by myself, and all I do is wake up and watch CNN, and then I'd wake up and watch ESPN, and I had not started my career there yet. And I just kept telling myself positive things. Because in those spaces of not being able to walk, being in constant pain, they gave me painkillers after you leave the hospital because they want the shortcuts for those types of things. I tried it once, I couldn't handle it, and so I went off of painkillers for all of my surgeries. And I was sitting there and I was like, what am I gonna do with my mind in this time where I can't move? And I just kept thinking positive things, positive things, positive things. Things are gonna be okay. And so I was watching television, and I would never have thought that when I would talk about these random things, like, hey, when I get back to Connecticut, maybe I'll have time to go into ESPN. I would watch First Take in 2014, not knowing that a year later, I'd be debating Stephen A. on that desk. And that's just positive self-thought. That's also having a small circle of people that never told me I was crazy for doing what I do. And then it's also that ancestors-driven mentality that, hey, you are the product of people that have made generations of sacrifices. What are you gonna do with your every day and every moment? And so for me, it's like work. And the work was just like, it's not like I'm like married to work or anything. It's fun, but I think someone asked me the other day, and I know I have to be, I know we're probably over time, so I'll try to make it brief. How do you equate success? And to me, it's impact. I've always wanted to be an MVP. I've always wanted to be an all-star. I've been an all-star twice. She's been an all-star like 50 million times. But I think at this point in my career, you get to a point of peace where you realize that everything that you do is for someone else. And I think that's maturity of us realizing that things will continue as you pass through. So as I work on air, it's been the biggest blessing. I know that I always tell people the hardest thing for me has been they see you and they judge you before they hear you and they know you. So I'll go on there, why are you talking about the men's game when you're a woman? They want to cancel me before I even talk. So what do? I hit you with facts, because guess what? Those other guys are just talking. But they'll start realizing, well, she is the one that's aligned with the truth. And then they don't realize that in those moments, all of those preconceived notions of what she looks like, oh, your gender, race, background, it's gone. It's now she brings value. That to me is what I try to transfer to every space. So even though maybe I'm like, my goal is to be an all-star again, all that type of stuff, it's that striving to improve the spaces that I'm in, despite people not recognizing your value in those spaces at the same time. That's sort of what motivates me in my career. But then it's also fun. You know, you go up, you go get it glammed, you have a good time. Like, it's a grind, but it's worth it because when I started, I think I was the only full-time female professional athlete doing both. Now there's like 40 players, which is cool. But yeah, so
Paving
she's
the
like,
way.
oh, it's a blessing, and my goal is to help, create those pathways for girls so that it's easier than like literally them putting your feet to the fire. It's now like, this is a lane that is meant for you. You're entitled to it, you deserve it, and we can get paid well from it as well, because that's what we deserve. And we should not come for anything less.
Sorry, thanks, Cody.
Okay, I have a question. I am not gonna get into competitive banter. I'm gonna keep it in. But first of all, thank you to Cody and Black Love. This is phenomenal. Nneka and Chiney, thank you to your parents, because you guys don't know, there's other Ogwumikes and they're all phenomenal. They're like all very smart, very talented, everyone's kind. Like, you guys are just both amazing people, and I'm obsessed with you. And Nneka, you should have been on every single Olympic team since 2012. Like,
It's all good.
I'm just telling you, I'm just saying we all felt that for you. Like, Nneka's the kind of person where she's so loved, where like we were hurt for her, But I just wanted to ask you guys, how is it at this stage in your life career? We're all 30 now, 30-ish. How is it now balancing the business of basketball, all the things that come with it, these events, Sports Center, all the, Adidas, all the promo stuff, and then the craft of basketball? Because people don't realize it's hard to wake up and just know you have a stretch workout.
Right.
Like, you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this practice, let alone also call my agent and put on a face for this, and the balancing of both. And like I said, especially at this time in your life.
I'm gonna let you answer first, but we would not be here without Tali. I just wanted to put that out there. So I just want to say, and Cody, it's so fun. Don't back up. We would not be here on this stage. I'm gonna answer after because her answer is gonna be better. So.
Oh, first of all, calm down. I think balance, a lot of people say, how do you balance? You don't. Like, there's no such thing as perfect balance. I know we all heard Michelle Obama talk about relationships, First Lady, yes ma'am. Like, this idea that there's, oh wait, you pointed like I thought she was here for a second.
She's on the wall. She
is here in spirit. You got me. I was like, let me work on my breathing for a second. But there's no such thing as perfect balance. I think, especially with basketball and also business, one thing I've realized is it's all about progress over perfection. In basketball, you want perfection. You want to go 5 for 5 or 26 for 26, which she did over 3 games, whatever. Like, you want that perfection. You don't want to miss a shot. But guess what? Sometimes, you have to take it in order to learn how to make it. So sometimes you have to take that opportunity at work to learn how to get that opportunity. Because that's the biggest thing I'm like not worried about working on, is just figuring out how can I put myself out there, because I feel like we're so conditioned. I know a lot of people talk about imposter syndrome. We're so conditioned to be like, oh, I work hard and you'll see that. No, because everyone else is out here taking handouts or finding ways through family and friends. Like, we have to find our ways to finesse as well. And we have to be our best advocates, because oftentimes we're the only ones in the room that have our own backs. So for me, it's all about just understanding, giving yourself, Nneka's favorite word, grace, to understand that perfection, it's overrated. It's all about how are we progressing every day. And then you'll realize, okay, maybe I didn't get perfection, but I got myself to a way better place. And that's exactly, I've given myself grace on the court, and I've given myself grace in the studio and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and I would have to actually perfect transition into grace when it comes to like balancing the craft, because like at the end of the day, I don't have a business if I'm not out there hooping. You know what I'm saying? And I think this also attains not just to basketball players and athletes who have businesses as well, but I'm almost certain everyone in here is not just doing one thing. You know what I'm saying? And no, really, like, that's just how we're built. That's how we are. And if I'm speaking specifically to my experience, I had to learn how to give myself grace to rest. Because like Chiney says, a lot of times we have this mindset of seeking perfection, ultimately, hopefully honing that into more progress than perfection, but we work all the time. Like even when we're just laying down, we're thinking of stuff to do. I know I am. And I think it's important for me, the longevity of my career, I'm gonna have to hang it solely on learning how to recover. Because a lot of times, a lot of these young rookies come in, they're like, man, you know, I'm in the league, like, what do you suggest? Stretch your body, get some sleep, hydrate. You know, you're always going to be able to get shots up. Even if you're injured, you're going to be working towards being uninjured. You know, you have to balance a lot of your aspirations and your determination and your work with rest, and most importantly, not feeling guilty for doing it. I don't know if anyone in here, I'm giving a plug right now, I don't know if anyone in here knows about the Nap Ministry. It's a church where you go sleep. It's a church.
I need to download the app.
Chiney has this thing called pre-sleep, but anyway, she takes these like 5-hour naps before her sleep. Anyway, but I think you're set on that. But the whole point is that she says it's like a form of resistance almost, but it is our right to rest, because as cliche as it sounds, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Nothing is going to come out. And I think Iyanla Van Zant said it best. She was saying, what's in the cup is for me, what comes out of the cup is for you. And it's very important to I learned that the hard way, and 2020 is what taught me that. I was trying to do too much. And I realized that I couldn't come and I was not able to play because I was so stressed. My stress manifests in lower back lockup. And my back locked up 3 times that season because I was not giving myself rest. And I'm sitting there like, man, what can I do to get my back right? You gotta sleep, you gotta rest. And just understanding that is our right. It should be a part of our everyday. It should be a part of our spiritual practice. It's very important. And you can be your best self when you come fully recovered, or at least partially recovered even. I think it's also very important to understand that every day is not gonna be 100%. But if you can give 80%, make it 100% of that 80 that you can give that day. And a lot of that comes with giving yourself the time to rejuvenate yourself. So that's how I would answer that question.
Can you hear me? Do I need to?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Projecting?
Yeah.
All right, cool. As Black women, I think we naturally, there's an innate thing to lead with empathy for other people, grace for other people. So how does that materialize? And in those moments, I guess having the self-awareness and what you might need, like you said, your back is locking up. How do you materialize that?
I think it starts with practicing on myself. You know, I know it's difficult to say that because, like you said, I think we're such a cornucopia for other people to come and just, get some type of vitality from. But it goes again to being able to have something in your cup for yourself. And it kind of goes with the boundaries and the balance that we all talk about. But like for me, manifesting what grace is, being present. And like being present might just mean if I'm on the phone, I'm not also doing something else. Like I'm giving that person my full presence. Sitting here and being able to like look everyone in the eye and like try to just develop a connection. It's just something as simple as that. I mean, your job is in communications and that's what you do. And just ensuring that you're positively speaking to yourself. You need to talk to yourself as if you are your own best friend, because I feel as though it's almost as though like the grace we owe people is like a responsibility rather than just something that's innate that we carry with us. Like if we are the source of that for other people, then we're living with the source, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's important for us to practice that on ourselves. Grace might mean, hey, my therapist actually told me this. This was interesting. So I told her that I'm trying to be better with sleeping. and she was giving me all these different tips, and then she was asking me about like my nighttime routine. And so like my nighttime routine, as I alluded to, is like, you know, journaling and, you know, breathing and like praying a little bit. And I said, you know, well, sometimes I feel like I just want to lay down, but then I feel bad when I don't journal. And she's like, but what is your body telling you to do? Just lay down. That's the grace that you give yourself. So then it's not like, oh man, I skipped my journal. No, it's like, no, my body is asking me to lay down. That is an act of grace. Even though you feel as though like there's this routine that you're a part of that you have to do, no, listen to what your body is telling you. You know, listen to what your mind is telling you. And I know you can probably speak a little bit more on this, but just it's not big. And I think that that's something that's really important for us to realize, is that a lot of what we provide people is so nuanced, but there's so many drops to what we do as Black women that lead to this ocean of resource. And we have to realize that we are the source of that. And in those moments when you feel like you're kind of playing mental gymnastics, really, your body's gonna know. And your mind and your heart are really gonna know what it is that you wanna do. Lean into that. And then just do that periodically and kind of see, like you said, what your experiences turn into. Are you still experiencing, you know, discord or trauma or a little bit of, you know, abrasiveness in your daily life? Or are things kind of flowing a little bit better? And a lot of times it's not about the guilt. It's more about the grace you're giving yourself to maybe create a new routine for yourself in this particular season. I think it's important for us to realize that everything's not always going to be the same. And when you understand that and you give yourself that space to be flexible, it'll help you really give yourself more of that grace.
Yes, please give these ladies a hand. I'm just going to come up from the back here because we're going into lunchtime, but I just wanted to say thank you so much to you ladies, and to let you all know that we'll be having lunch food trucks outside.
Ooh.
And so thank you all so much. I have one question. What was the name of the book?
My book?
Yeah, the book that you mentioned that.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
That
The
too, that
Body
too,
Keeps
too.
Score.
The Body Keeps Score. Okay, that stuck with me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, plug your book.
And my book is Let Your Fears Make You Fierce. How to Turn.
All right. Thank you, ladies, so much.